Hello all. So today we are deflecting from what's new in 2024 release wave 1. After a while, I went into the community portal, Dynamics communities, and I just went there to see what kind of questions being asked, what kind of responses being given. And while looking at that, I found a question which I never talked about, which is as a developer, how you deal with the dimensions in Business Central. So let's first open the question and then we'll get into it. So the question is, I would like to validate purchase line and the person have subscribed to the event uh, to check the purchase approval possible or not. And I'm hoping the person is trying to validate that the dimension values are either set, or he's trying to check, or she is trying to check that the right values associated with the purchase line that he or she is expecting based on a setup. So if you look at the screenshot, it says the project, this code, the department code, the localization code, and the March code and the group code all are dimensions. In the purchase line, the person was able to find the shortcut dimension 1 field. Shortcut dimension 2 field is also available in the purchase line. The question is how I get access to the other 4 dimensions that are listed here, the localization code and other codes, and how to get values between it. Now, why it is interesting to read about it is because I also get a lot of questions about it on LinkedIn and other forums. And everybody is not doing it correctly. So let's go back in history. In NAV 2013, Microsoft redesigned how dimensions are stored. Now, there was a detailed article published by Microsoft on MSDN back then of what is the right way of reading and writing dimensions in Business Central or nav. Now, if you haven't read it, I would highly encourage you to read it. And if you are interested, please drop a comment if I also need to talk about how to write dimensions correctly into a record in Business Central. Now, while doing this, I'm also kind of segregating these videos into 3 levels: the entry level developers, the mid level, and the so called senior level. I consider myself as a mid level developer. So, this article belongs to a mid level developer like me. So, let's get into it. Okay. So, I have this Business Central environment, and first, let's understand where you set up dimensions. So you surely go into the dimension page if you haven't set up the dimensions, and here you can define as many dimensions as you want. Now, dimension is a parent entity, and associated comes with this is dimension value. So then here you go and you define the values associated with these dimensions. And as you can see, you can do different things here. This video is not about it, so I'll not talk about it here. But once you have defined that, then for a company that you're using it, you can define dimensions on your general ledger setup. So once you get into your general ledger setup, there's a complete section of dimensions where you see 8 options from shortcut global dimension 1 and 2, and then shortcut dimension 1 to 8. So as per the standard Microsoft Nav or Business Central, a company can have at the max configured dimension as 8. You can use more if needed, but you can only configure 8 dimensions. The first 2 global dimensions are same as the shortcut dimension 1 and 2, and they'll remain as it is. If the global dimension is changed, the shortcut dimension 1 and 2 will also change respectively. Now, what happens into the documents, we'll get into it. So what is the difference between global and shortcut? You will always see the global dimensions available on all your pages from Microsoft, or you will see the shortcut dimension 1 and 2. For shortcut dimension 3 and forward, you will have to go to a different action in some pages, and in some pages those fields are available. So let's see the scenarios for purchase order. So let's get into purchase order, and let's try to open a purchase order. Now what you see here is, let's come here and let's try to see it. I see the department code, which is one of my dimension, customer group code, and the area code. Now, why I see 3? Because in my general ledger setup, I have 3 dimension set. The department, customer group, which are the global and shortcut 1 and 2, and area is my third. And if you start defining more, those fields will become visible at least on the purchase order subform. There might be other pages where it will be available, but it's not throughout the application, I think. So let's say if I define all my 8 dimension, just to kind of, or just 7, okay. So I've defined business group, purchasers, sales campaign, and salesperson. If I come back, and this page will automatically get refreshed hopefully, and will show me what that page look like after I just change the setup. Now what happens on these pages? Microsoft have code associated that if the dimension is defined on your setup, then those fields will be also visible on your purchase line or on the sales line and other areas where it is available. So now if you navigate towards right, you will notice that there are more and more dimension field as I'm enabling them on my setup. Now let's come to the point or the question. Now I have this dimension. There are some values associated with it, and let's copy or create one more item so that we have 2 lines to explain you certain things. Okay. And then there are some auto populated and some I'll define. Okay. All right. So now what happens is, and this is post NAV 2013 or NAV 2009. If you're on 2013 and higher, NAV 2013 and higher, this video is applicable to you. When you define or assign a dimension to a record, there is a behind the scene process that happens as you validate these values, and this all combination of dimension gets a unique number, and that number is called dimension set ID. So if I zoom this record, what I can see is I can surely see the shortcut dimension 1 and 2. Okay, let's do that. And out on the header, I'm looking on the line. So I can see 1 is empty and 2 is empty. If I click here, I can see that 1 and 2 is available. But what about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on and so forth? What happens is whenever you assign this combination, there is a field called dimension set ID, which gets a unique value. Now, before we move further, let me take you to table information to this table to understand how it works. So what I've done is I've already created a filter view, and I don't want to get into bigger details about it because this is to understand how you kind of write the code. But let's see. So I filtered for table where there's dimension word and Cronus. Now when you look at this, what you see is that there is a table called dimension set entry. Now this table holds certain dimensions, and then there is a dimension set tree table which is completely different, or tree node. What we are going to do in this video is we are going to go into dimension set entry. Now notice there are 56 record at this moment. Now these 56 record contains a unique integer for a unique combination, and I'll explain you what I mean by that. So let me sort this data with the dimension set ID. Now what it is telling me that there is a dimension set ID 1 which gets assigned to your document if you are using the area 70. Just that. But if you are trying to use area 70, customer group medium, department sale, then you will get a combination of dimension set ID 3. Now let's go back and come back to this record where we were. There is a unique number to this, which is 30. Let's come down here and see what 30 means. So 30 is a unique combination where area is 70, business group is industrial, customer group is medium, department is ADM, and so on and so forth. Anywhere in the system, irrespective of what document type it is. Is it a sales order? Is it purchase order? Is it item journal? Is it customer payment detail? Wherever in the document, if there is this combination exist, the system will always return you number 30. Wanna take a bet? Let's come in. Let's go ahead and create a sales order. Completely different document. Let's create a sales order. Let's pick a sales order if there is already one. This is release, so I'll pick the other one. Let's navigate to this one. And in this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an item line. Whatever the default values will come, I'll just, for the dimensions, I'll remove them if there are any. Okay, so let's remove these. Okay, because there is a reason how these values come from header, come from priorities and other things, but let's start setting it. Area is 70, so let's do area 70 and keep looking at the dimension set ID as I'm assigning value. When I did area 70, the value you got is 1, which is this. Okay, now I tried business group as industrial. Okay, industrial. Okay, now as soon as it gets validated, it is still pointing to 1. Okay, customer group as medium. So let's start setting up customer group as medium. It got the number 27 for medium, 70 and what is that, which I cannot see here because that was not created before this, so that new number is just created. Now department is ADM, so let's set this up, ADM. And now sales campaign is summer, so let's set up the sales campaign as summer. And last but not least is the salesperson JO, so let's set up the JO here. And now notice what came up is the dimension set ID as 3030. So people who had been in nav have this habit of deleting the dimension data when they are deleting document. But in NAV 2013 and higher and in Business Central, you don't delete, you never delete the dimension set entry data, because this can be associated to 10 different record or 10 different transaction into the system. The system is able to return you this combination whenever, or the number whenever you are setting the dimension which has been already used. If it is not used, then it'll automatically create a new one. Now how that happens is not the intent of this video, but the intent of this video is to find out how I get all this if I know the number 30, because now I can see that there is a number 30 associated with it. So let's get working on it. So I'll be adding this into the community repo that is available on GitHub. You know the drill, where the path is. And now let's create a simple code unit. Okay, let's do a code unit. Inside the code unit, let me create a new code unit and we'll call it as SDH DIM management. Okay, this got added and it has an incorrect name which I hate, so let me just fix this. Sorry if I'm wasting your time, but I like it to be clean. Okay, now on this, let's create a procedure and we'll keep it global so that we can use it anywhere. And then this is get dimension values and I'll pass it. Let me zoom this in so that you guys can see it. I'll pass the dim set ID or the current dim set ID as integer. And then there is a code unit which manages all your dimension, which is, let's see, dim, and let's do code unit and we'll be able to see dimension. So now if you look at it, there's a dimension buffer management, which is not here. Okay, dimension management especially used for inserting new dimensions and all. If needed, I'll do a video on it. And then there's a code unit specifically to get shortcut dimension values. So let's try to utilize this. Okay, and I'll call it get shortcut dimension values. Hopefully there is a function available inside this. So let's do get shortcut dimension value dot. Now there are three methods into it. One is called get global dimension. So if you are only looking for shortcut dimension 1 or 2 or global dimension 1 or 2, you just need to pass the dimension set ID and it will return you a array of 8 with code 20, but it will only give you the global dimension. If you use the get shortcut dimensions, it will again return you an array of shortcut dimension of size 8 of code 20 and from the dimension set ID. But is it giving me dimension values or is it giving me dimensions? Let's have a look. I have my doubts. Okay, if dimension set ID is equals to 0, for I is equals to 1 to 8, if this is not equal to blank, which is 1, then it gets the dimension set entry from this, which is okay. So there is a value associated with it, so no worries. What I'll do is based on your setup, it'll return you the values and I need to pass it the dimension set ID. So I have that. So let's pass it. And the other thing that I need to pass it to is my shortcut dimension array 8 of code 20. Okay. Maybe I didn't have to write this, but okay. I could have directly called it. Yeah, maybe. So let's do this. Let's start adding this instead of on this page. Let's start adding this directly into a page. So let me just create a new folder, and this time I'm creating a page extension. Okay, in the page extensions I'm going to add an action. Okay, page extension, let's add it on purchase order subform. Purchase order subform. Okay, in this let's add an action, which is, I'm not going to add anything on the layout, but let's do actions. And in this, let's do add last on my, let's see, let's get here on my order, let's say, or line. It should be on the line. Let's say, okay. And last into the line action. And the action that I would like to do is the action get dim values. Okay. Caption get dimension values, and then on this I might have to add the tooltip, so let me do that. Okay, what I'm missing on action. Okay, so I'll just copy this, call this method, or call this, define this variable here, and in this I'll just call this. Okay, and I'll say record dot dimension set ID, comma, I'll have to define an array. So let's define this locally so that I can utilize it. Okay, so I define it here. Okay, now this code unit is not needed, so I'll just delete this. Okay, so here is my shortcut dimension code, which I can pass here. In return, what this function will do, as this is passed as var, this array will be filled in. So now what I can do is I can write a for loop for I is equals to 1 to 8, do okay, and I becomes my integer. Okay, what I want to do with the I want to do a message of one is I, which is I'll write dimension 1 in this case, and value percentage 2. So this becomes my I and this becomes my shortcut dimension I. So this is getting filled in for 1 to 8 if there are any, and this message will print if there is a value at 1, what is that value, and so on and so forth. Now you can have different purposes of this. I'm just showing you how you can display it, but if you have to do a comparison as the code was there or the question was there in the community, feel free to do that. That will not be a problem. Okay, so let me just try to publish this directly and hopefully this gets published. I've never published in BC24, so I'm a little bit worried that my previous community extension is working on BC24 or not. Otherwise, I'll have to fix it some way or other. Okay, but this got published. So now what I just need to do is go to my purchase order page, select the line for which I want to see those values of dimensions, and it'll just call one standard code to return me value. You don't have to do a get on your dimension set entry table and then figure out a value, because Microsoft have built in all this and given you the wrappers to kind of handle these. So let's see. Okay, here they are, and not this one. Okay, I'm always confused about which one I have put the values. So let me see, are there 2 lines? No. In this there are 2 lines, yes. And do I have dimensions? Yes. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go to line, and I should have an action get dimension values, so I can click on it, and now I can see that the dimension value 1 has the value ADM. Now this 1 is coming from your general ledger setup, whatever is set on general ledger setup at dimension 1. The value is ADM. Dimension value 2 is medium, which is customer group. Dimension value 3 is 70. Dimension value 4 is industrial. 5 is empty, so there is no value associated with 5. 6 is summer. 7 is JO. 8 is empty, and that's it. So now, based on just this simple logic that we have written here, which is just calling this method, I can get the whole array associated with. But you may ask that I also want to see the dimension code, and if that's what is concerning you, you can just do a get on your general ledger setup and get the value. So let me just do that quickly if that becomes a problem. General ledger setup of type record, general ledger setup. Okay, let me do a get. Okay, just a get, nothing else. Okay, now here I'll also change it that if this is empty, I don't want to kind of print that empty one, right? But if you want, you can do that. Okay, begin end, and I'll say if this is not equal to blank, then okay, this should happen. But what should happen? Okay, now it should do a general ledger setup dot shortcut dimension. You'll have to do it field by field if you want to get it. Okay, so shortcut dimension 1 code becomes yours. And is there a function to kind of fill the entries? Let's see, let's go in this. So you can get the global dimension, which will fill in, and it is already doing the set from the general GL setup dimension code. So there will be a method which is setting this up, hopefully. Okay, this is the method which is setting it up. So they have defined an array and it's a local procedure. So either I can copy this and then show it to you. So let's do that. Okay, so let me just copy all this for the time being. That's not a problem, right? Okay, I should not be doing it on a page, but just for the sake of showing it to you, let's plate it here. And let me remove all this, and then let me remove all this also. Then, like Microsoft, I'll just make this as a global variable like this and place it here. Okay, now the GL setup part is here. So let me just get this from here to here. Okay, and let's rename this to GL setup. So what this function will do, it'll just load all the dimension codes into it. So let's call this at the very beginning of this so that it gets loaded. And then because now I have the dimension code set, I can just call my condition here to say you don't have to kind of worry about it now because there is thing happening here. Okay, so if the dimension code is not equal to blank, the dimension %1 will not point to I, will actually point to the GL setup shortcut dimension code of I. So now this will show me the dimension code and this will show me the associated value code. So this function is setting or filling up this array for all the dimension that has been set up on the general ledger setup from 1 to 8. And if the value is not empty, then it will printing me the dimension code and the dimension value associated with that particular document. So let's publish this and let's see this. But while this is publishing, remember, if you ever want to get the dimension, there is one single line of code which is get shortcut dimensions, which requests you the dimension set ID of the document for which you want to get the dimensions, and a array which gets populated with the result that is generated based on that dimension set ID. So if you ever have to do this, don't write crazy code. I have seen people, it's very hard to explain on LinkedIn or somewhere that how you should be correctly writing it, but just keep an extra eye on it and let's see. So here we are. Let's get into the lines. Let's try to get the dimension values. And now we see dimension is department and value is ADM. Dimension is customer group and I cannot see it, but value is medium. Area is 70. Business group is industrial. Sales campaign is summer and salesperson is JO. So whatever was available was seen here is also seen here. And now if I just change the line to the previous line, get the dimension values, I'll see that I'm getting the same values here, which are assigned to this particular line. Now the similar code or the similar way you can utilize anywhere in the system, in any application area. Don't try to write a complex code to read dimension if that is your intention of reading the dimension value. Hope this video helped you to understand what is the right way of reading dimensions and associated dimension value to a record. If you need, then add it to the comment section of how to write dimensions into Business Central, and I'll be happy to make a video about it. Now you know the drill, that if you think that this was useful for you and you learned something new, hit the like button. If you think there are other people like you, your friends, your colleagues, even your juniors and seniors who might want to learn this, share this info with them. And let's start writing the right code that we should be writing rather than writing a lengthy code. And if you haven't, then do subscribe to the channel. Once in a while, I'll go into the community portal. If there's a question that interests me and I think that it's a problem, I'll surely talk about it in this particular series. I'll see you sooner than later on the next video, maybe on a completely different topic. But till then, keep learning and keep sharing your knowledge and make this community great. So till then, have a great day and thank you.